You always ask hard-hitting questions, Josh.
I always ask hard-hitting questions?
Always, to the root.
Okay.
So we are here with Just Joshing, Josh P., an author and a podcast owner and director. So today we wrangled him to many different breakfast places that were not open.
She kidnapped me against my will.
We kidnapped him against his will, and we wanted to ask him a few awesome questions about his writing career and his podcast being nominated in an award show in Vancouver. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so all right. So the podcast is a finalist for an Aurora Award. I'm being directed here by my kidnapper. It's true. But anyways, the podcast is nominated for an Aurora Award for Best Fan-Related Work. It's a finalist. The really cool thing about that whole story for me is I actually didn't put myself in to be nominated. Somebody else did, and it was voted all the way up to being a finalist. Now, whether I win or not, I won't know until the weekend coming up. But honestly, it's been really cool. It was really a nice surprise, and honestly, it's drawn a lot of good attention to my podcast. So I've been really enjoying the ride.
So your podcast, Just Joshing.
Yes.
When did you start that, and what kind of people do you have on it?
I started it by accident. I was interviewing Robert J. Stoyer for my blog, and I was still doing handwritten interviews back in the day. And then Rob was. I met him at When Worlds Collide. We were talking. I had finally a phone like this. Yay, I'm in the 21st century. And he was talking to me and going, he just offhandedly mentioned me interviewing for a podcast. I was like, I didn't think about doing a podcast. Could I do a podcast? But once I started doing it, it's kind of something I've always wanted to do. I've been interviewing people for about 15 years. So since I've been doing it, so this has been just a logical progression of what I've been doing. So,
who is one of the coolest people that you've got to interview? I'm sure every one of them is special, but which one did you really remember?
Oh God, that's too many lists. I'll name you some of my more recent interviews that I really enjoyed. I interviewed Sophia Evangelina. She was a 15-year-old pop singer. It was hilarious. She was like more mature than like everybody in the room, including me. I felt like very, she was awesome. Ellen Michelle, she is an editor / publisher / entrepreneur. I loved her passion. She was one of the most she wears her heart on her sleeve, and it was just really, it's just, when people are like that, they're really, really inspiring. Consequently, probably one of the most serious yet very cool conversations I had recently was with Jane Bernard. She was talking about her condition, her disease that she has to cope with all the time. Managing time, friendship, and just she was also an Aurora finalist this year for her work. And I've had this opportunity to hear stories like this all the time.
So Josh, a little bit about you and the crowd that you run with in Calgary. Did you want to share more about that?
What do you mean by crowd?
Well, the network that you're around, you're in the film industry mainly, yeah?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm in doing this podcast has given me access to a bunch of different ones. I'm the Calgary local writing community, first and foremost, is what I'm a big part of. But I've also been part of the film community. I've done actually a couple small parts in movies behind the camera. I helped mostly with Ben Hayden's stuff. I worked with him on a 24-hour film festival a long time ago. And then at Gophobia, I was part of the film crew there. I said to film something I kind of want to dabble with somewhere down the road again, but I've done some stuff there. But I've also met some really good people. Neil Enoch, Kathy Escalina, my kidnapper, Joe Maria Robinson. Licia Bear, I've got to meet her. She's really cool. And it's just been neat to meet these people who are in their own right super talented. Up until I did movies all those years back, I did not recognize how talented actors really were until I actually watched them work. And then when you watch them work, you realize they do put a lot of time, effort, and commitment into what they're doing. So there you go. How's that?
Where can we follow you, Josh, for your podcast?
My podcast is available on iTunes. Just look me up under Just Joshing. There's a lot of other podcast apps that's available. I'm on Podomatic as well, as where I generally post my stuff and it goes everywhere. I'm on Twitter at jpantalleresco. I'm on Instagram at jpantalleresco. And you can also find me at Joshua Pantalleresco. Just Google me. You'll find me everywhere.